Before handing you the microphone and the control for the next hour and a half, I invite you to watch a short movie, a song, in fact. Let's hear it.
Ved Telemarkskysten står en stor fabrikk. Den er viktig for Norges klimapolitikk. Hele betongverden venter spent på Norcems anlegg med karbonfangst for sement. Det er en problematisk situasjon. Klimautslipp på nesten 1 million tonn med CO2. Hva skal vi gjøre? Jo, vi kan fange den. Vi kan fange CO2 hvis vi tør. Nullutslippsbetong er den nye vin. Mindre CO2, men like fin. Skal vi få de klimatiltakene vi trenger, må kundene ut med litt mer peng. Og offentlige anbud må være streng. Det betongen skal vi stille krav om lågutslipp fra vogge til grav. Hvis du har økonomisk kjørestyr, så kan du frakte den med elektrisk betongbil. For stål og betong, det må vi ha når vi bygger jernbane og vindmøller. Fornybar strøm, det er ikke nok. Uten karbonfangst så får vi klimasjokk. Og derfor så er nullutslippsbetong den nye vin. Mindre CO2, men like fin. Skal vi få de klimatiltakene vi trenger, da må kundene ut med litt mer peng. Og offentlige anbud må være streng. Ved Telemarkskysten står en sementfabrikk. Kan bli viktig for global klimapolitikk. Hvis Erna Solberg gjør det hun skal. For karbonfangst og lagring, det må vi ha. Karbonfangst for prosessindustrien, det må vi ha.
Congratulations, Olav, and thank you very much for this idea of opening the conversation with this song. Now, Luciana, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. It's going to be hard to follow that. Bellona Foundation, everybody. Hello, I'm really thrilled to have you all here with us today to discuss carbon capture and storage. This is a really fascinating topic. It's incredibly important for industrial decarbonization, but also quite a complex and tricky process that we're really learning from by doing. So this is a great time to have some Nordic experts here with us, considering the pioneering efforts happening on CCS in Scandinavian countries. I'm Luciana. I'm a principal consultant at Logika Group. We are a UK consultancy working on a variety of environmental and climate issues. I would now like to introduce our panelists and invite them to give an opening statement. I will start with Mr. Sorin Banciu. Mr. Banciu, you are the Vice President of the National Regulatory Authority on Mining, Petroleum and Geological Storage of CO2, the competent authority for CO2 storage in Romania. You have a history in public service as an advisor to the State Secretary of Forests, a member of Parliament, and State Secretary for European Affairs in the Ministry of Environment. And prior to this, you have been active both in civil society and public administration on forests. So we've had nature-based carbon management, and now we have technology-based carbon management. Mr. Banciu, please, the floor is yours if you would like to give your opening statement.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today, since I haven't been able to visit the Nordic countries and see the projects on the ground. I'm very happy to be here and share the experience with colleagues working actively on such projects. Indeed, I've come from coordinating the long-term strategy of Romania so from strategic approach to more concrete projects, because we hope that in the future Romania could develop a project on CCUS, trying to learn from projects, not only from experiences of other countries. Our authority is an old one, regulating the sustainable use of mineral resources, oil and gas and minerals, and now with a more active role in CO2 storage. So we consider us a gateway towards industrial decarbonization. I used to present this topic not necessarily as a climate target, but since Europe talks a lot about competition and maintaining competitiveness of European industries, I really believe that this is one of the solutions we have to maintain competitiveness of important industries for Europe and for Romania, and in the same time contribute to a climate neutral Europe. Just a few words. I will not go through each of the slides, but we are a regulator of traditional resources. In the same time, we are overseeing carbon storage, and we consider the authority as an enabler for energy transition. As you already know, Romania will have to contribute with the second largest target of the European Union to this 50 million tons target. I personally consider this more than 10 million target as an opportunity to transform industrial landscapes that will vanish or are under depression into potential hubs for development, for jobs, and also for transboundary cooperation, because we know what's needed. We know that we need quantities. We know we need transboundary networks, and for this, I think, again, the Nordic experience, it's interesting. I've looked at what different countries are doing, from offshore storage in Norway and Denmark, onshore storage in Denmark, also Iceland with an innovative approach to storing CO2 in underground, and also Finland looking at how they can transport the CO2 to storage site in the Nordic Sea. So all these experiences are of extreme value to us. We are here to learn, to share our plans in terms of regulating. We want to develop the best practices possible, because we know that the topic is extremely socially sensitive. We had our challenges in the past with projects that didn't work because the communities did not understand the value behind it. We want to be very transparent with this. We have published maps with geological formation where this can happen. We have theoretical potential storage already calculated, but what we need now is to connect all these dots, to connect emitters to storage sites, to develop connection between the capture sites to the storage site, and also connection of Romania with other countries. And I really believe that Romania can develop into a regional hub for CO2 storage, and we can really learn from others how we can do it in a region that, for the moment, lacks significant projects and development. I think I have already consumed my 7 minutes. But if not, I will be happy to continue during a more interactive discussion with the colleagues in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Banciu. A lot of issues already emerging from there that I think will make for a very interesting discussion. We've heard about competitiveness, social sensitivity, and connecting the dots. So how do you build a CCS value chain? I will now like to invite Olav Øye to give his opening statement. Olav is, amongst other things, as a singer, a senior advisor on climate and industry at the Bellona Foundation. Olav, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Luciana, and thank you for inviting us to come and speak here. Just briefly about my organization first. Bellona was founded in 1986 as an activist campaign organization that wanted to expose environmental crime, as we called it. In other words, dumping of industrial waste illegally into fjords, into rivers, some buried it in the ground. We wanted to highlight these problems in a way because this was not being dealt with in the public debate. But we did not only want to focus on problems, we wanted to focus on solutions. So in 1989, we imported the first electric car to Norway, together with a pop group that some of you might have heard of called a-ha. That was a bit of a slow start. But since then, thanks to incentives that we have and others have a campaign for, the new cars sold in Norway today are almost 100% of them are electric. So it takes time, but given the right incentives, climate action and changing the transport sector, which is important to pretty much all of us, is possible. Going to CCS, this is an overview of the point sources of CO2 in the Nordic countries that are above 100,000 tons. It doesn't mean that all of these need to be, or even should be, dealt with by CCS. And we, of course, know that the public funding is a scarce resource. So, in order to help both companies and countries guide their policy on CCS, we, together with E3G, another NGO, developed what we call a CCS ladder, which is a methodology to evaluate when CCS for a cement plant, steel plant, refinery, gas power plant might make sense. It's available on our website. Sorin already mentioned EU policy, so I'm not going to go into the Net Zero Industry Act, but just going straight to the Nordic policies. Denmark did not do a lot politically on CCS until about 4 or 5 years ago, but they have done a lot to develop CCS policy since then. That includes storage, but crucially, it involves a significant funding schemes, more than 5 billion euros, that has already triggered investment decisions for Ørsted. You can see the plant on the picture. That will, in the next couple of years, start to capture CO2, send it to Norway for permanent storage offshore. Sweden is mostly known for its work on carbon dioxide removal. They have granted funds already to a combined heat and power plant fueled by biomass residue in Stockholm. I think it's important and interesting to note that it's not only public funding that enabled this, also the sales of carbon dioxide removal to Microsoft and some funding from the EU Innovation Fund together enable Stockholm Exergy to actually take a decision and start investing in CCS. Jørgen from Gassnova will talk more about the Longtrip project and Norwegian CCS policy later, but I just want to mention it here because it has been a big victory for our work in Norway and many others who have campaigned for actual funding for CCS that not only allows decarbonization in Norway, but that explicitly is meant to take CO2 from Sweden, Denmark and other European countries that can be sent to Norway for CO2 storage, since Norway has the biggest, at least the biggest theoretical, possibly also the biggest practical potential for CO2 storage in Europe. You've seen some of the music videos. If you want a short version of the capture plant at the waste incinerator in Oslo, you're welcome to check it out. And it's not meant as a public relations stunt or for public acceptance, but I think in order to explain CCS, we sometimes need to use different means than only reports and emails. This is Romania. We have worked for a number of years, a bit on and off, together with Romanian organizations, including recently EPEG and then Energy Policy Group. So we're happy to continue the dialogue to discuss CCS and other climate solutions for Romania. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olav. Exactly on time. Wonderful. A lot of other interesting aspects you brought up that we'll be happy to dive into in the panel discussion. One of the things is that it takes time, right? These are projects that take time, and the enabling conditions for them also take time to be put in place. So it will be a good food for thought. And maybe I give the floor to Simon now, because clearly I'm speaking too much. So Simon, you're a regional CCUS lead at DNV, at Norske Veritas, with experience on CCS in Nordic countries, and you're the CCS lead for Northern Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. So I just saw the slides I updated last night. Did not come in, but I prepared 2 sets of slides, luckily. I always have a backup plan. So just a few lessons learned from what we have done. Apologies, there's not so many numbers in the next slide. But yeah, my name is Simon Holm. I'm from Denmark, working for a Norwegian company, acting as regional segment lead for DNV in the Northern Europe. About DNV, DNV is an independent classification society, independent company who are acting often as a third-party independent verifier or advisor, and also within the maritime classification society. On the photo here, there's a picture of Northern Lights. The ship there is classed by DNV, which we are very proud of. So, some figures just to give a perspective on the outlook. This is what we published earlier this year, is that we see this large growth in carbon capture and storage. This is how it's split into the different regions. We see North America and Europe being the largest contributors towards 2030. And we see this happening now because there's a lot of projects. We've never seen this amount of projects in the world that is materializing and developing. There are very many government targets within Europe and the rest of the world. And then we see a lot of these corporate commitments. Right now we see a little bit of this, a lot policy uncertainty. I think you can mention more about that, Olav and Carsten and Hans. Yeah. So some of the barriers here, which we tackle in our daily life, to a high extent, the technical challenges. And this is a photo from one of our test sites in the UK. 10 years ago, we ruptured a CO2 dense phase pipeline to get an understanding of how the CO2 in liquid state behaves. This is a research project together with industry partners. And this is still ongoing, this work, and this is still advancing into a more advanced stage. And recent years show that when there's a rupture, like we had in the US, we take these learnings in and we try to develop a better and more strong understanding of the CO2 dense phase behavior in pipelines. So yeah, I can show you a bit more outside this if needed. Another barrier is the high costs. We see very high subsidy schemes being announced and rolled out, as Olav mentioned. A few figures up here, not going to go into too much detail on that. And then the public perception. Especially onshore, this is a challenge. And we spoke briefly about this earlier, that if you do carbon capture at a plant, waste to energy, whatnot, onshore, near a local town, there will potentially be a lot of trucks coming in and out. And people will feel that in their daily life. These people don't want to live on a CO2 storage site. That is another perspective. Yeah, so this is the map of Denmark, where they have announced some licenses in yellow. There are some with light blue that are being awarded as more or less as we speak. And then we have with red dots the key emitters, which are applying for subsidy. There's a big tender for about 4 billion euro subsidy for carbon capture and storage. And yeah, I think this is the topic of the day, really, from all of us to talk how did we get here in Denmark. Yeah, I won't go into too much detail. I think I've spent my time.
Still have a minute. 1 minute.
1 minute, right. As Olav mentioned, these CDRs, carbon dioxide removals, will be a cornerstone of how to deal with this. It's essential because it builds your business case. This is what we forecast will increase in the coming years towards 2050.
Thank you very much, Simon. More food for thought in there. I'm glad that we started touching on the public perception aspect, because that is going to be very interesting to learn from the Nordics, where public perception and public engagement is further ahead than in some other parts of Europe, but still not without its challenges. So we'll dive into that in the panel discussion. Before we do that, last but not least, Jørgen Vinje. You are a senior advisor at Gassnova. For those of you who don't know, it is the Norwegian state enterprise developing CCS. And thank you very much. Please, your opening statement.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all about the lessons learned from Norway regarding CCS. Short about our company. Gassnova is a state enterprise, as you mentioned. We are approximately 30 people working for the Ministry of Energy, and our sole purpose is CCS. So how cool is that? Being able to use all my time, sort out CCS issues. We have a portfolio of a support program for technology development called Climate, covering all aspects of CCS value chain. We have ownership at the Technology Center Mongstad, who is a qualification arena for capture technologies. And then this Longship I will come back to. But we have very focused on being transparent of the learning and couple back the learnings from demonstration to then back to research, how to improve the different stages throughout the value chain. I'm not going to tell you all about the story of CCS in Norway, but it's been quite some time. It started with the introduction of a CO2 levy for offshore back in 1992, and that initiated the first storage of CO2 of the offshore industry. That was gas sweetening project, but has then proven safe storage since mid-1990, storing 1 million tons per annum. And then we had the first years we had very focus on gas and gas power and CCS on gas power. But in 2015 we have quite a shift. We then have much more focus on hard to abate industry and how to create a value chain for CCS. Prior to that, it was very often the case that the one who owned the emitting source also should be responsible for storage. We realized that that is too large endeavor, so we have to create a value chain with different actors to sort out their part of the value chain. And then that spurred the birth of the Longship. And just a word of the Longship. It hasn't really anything to do with CCS, but Longship back in the days, 1,000 years ago, it was an innovation that made Norway, gave them the opportunity to plunder Europe. This time we come in more peaceful manner to share knowledge about CCS. But that's the background for the Longship logo. So short about the Longship, it is then a total value chain of CCS. It's capturing from the cement plant that you heard Olav's song so beautiful about. It's capturing 400,000 tons a year. And it's the Celsio base energy plant in Oslo, our capital. That's the main source of district heating power in Oslo. And then capturing 400,000 tons from that plant. And then in Norway we have scattered industry, but we all are then located near the coastline. That's why we chosen to use ships as a transport method to the CO2 terminal on the west coast of Norway, and then a 100 kilometers pipeline and a subsea injection well storing the CO2 into a saline aquifer 2,600 meters below the seabed. And this has really been how we sorted out the chicken and egg problem. Just going to elaborate a little bit about that, because in Norway, the storage operator, that is oil and gas companies, they wouldn't start developing the storage before they have CO2 to store. And the capture sites wouldn't start the project before they have storage. And that's why we made this parallel agreement, and the state take the risk of creating the whole value chain. So these actors in the value chain hasn't any agreement between themselves. They all have agreement with the state. In addition, this was back in 2015. The negotiation started here. The ETS price was between 5 and 8 euro. So of course, it's also a substantial state support. But connecting the dots, as you mentioned, is really important. And this is how we did it back in the days. And we will share the knowledge of why we selected that one, that model, and maybe collaborate what is the best way of connecting the dot here. So just, you have already seen some of these pictures, but this has then been built, and it is in operation from this summer. The Oslo CCS is somewhat behind schedule because they have to restart the project, but it's going to be online in 2029. And you saw this Yara Sluiskil in Netherlands and Ørsted in Denmark are going to be the next CO2 volumes getting into the Northern Light project. Forgot about that. And we are very much into sharing knowledge. So please check out ccsnorway.com and the learnings report, because as a part of the state support, the industrial actors are obliged to share their knowledge, and they have done such in a very good way. And in addition, we have also sorted out some, or made some reports that give you some background on how some of our learnings. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Hans-Jørgen. So much to learn from Longship, and I'm sure we will be picking your brains throughout this panel discussion. It's also possible to visit the Øygarden terminal for CO2 storage. Having been there, it is really, really worth a visit just to see that this is possible in practice and just the scale of it. So we've seen it takes time, the scale is huge. So I wanted to start the panel discussion by talking about what needs to happen. What are the enabling conditions that are required to get CCS off the ground? What was really important in Nordic countries to make CCS a reality, and what do countries like Romania need to put in place to make CCS a reality here? I will direct this question at no one in particular. Just please pick up the microphone and we can make this a bit more of a dialogue. Yes? Would you like to start, Hans-Jørgen? Can you use the microphone? Thank you.
Could you repeat the question? It's really bad acoustic. Yes.
What are the enabling conditions required to make CCS a reality? What was really important to get right in Norway so that Longship became a reality?
As I mentioned, this chicken and egg problem, that was really the main hurdle, because we have a lot of technical issues, but that was more or less sorted out. They have done the piloting on their plants. They know the technology. That was sorted out. But then how to enable the whole value chain, how to connect the dot. That was really the main issue. And the state support agreement that the state entered into each of the companies really was the way to do it. And that the Norwegian state took the risk of, if one of the actors in the value chain was then not successful, the different actors didn't have any risk. That's the burden was on the Norwegian state. I think that was the main hurdle that we sorted out in the Longship project.
Yeah, thank you. Simon, did you want to? Sorry, or Olav first.
I wanted to explain a bit more about the difference between the Norwegian model and the Danish model. So both of them have worked, you can say, because construction has started in Norway and in Denmark. They have a storage site in Norway, all good. But we do know that the Danish model puts a lot more on the risk on the emitter, because there they provide a subsidy based on an auction and a competition, but the responsibility for organizing the whole value chain, including taking financial risks, legal risks, risks of one part of the chain not working, it's on the emitter. And on top of this comes the penalties that the Danish states has said that emitters will have to pay if they are not able to actually start capturing and transporting and storing CO2. And this, from one point of view, is understandable because the subsidy scheme in Denmark is connected to the Danish climate target. So the Danish states really wants to pick the best projects to make sure that they actually reach their climate targets. But this also has meant that, based on conversations we've had with some emitters, that they don't, some of them are not in a position to take big financial risks. For example, some that are owned by the public. Waste incinerators is a typical example of emitters that are owned or operated by public authorities that do not want to take the financial risks of several hundred millions of euros in the worst case in case something goes wrong.
Great. So a bit different in Denmark. The burden of responsibility seems to be on the emitters here, which I think is interesting because when we talk about Romania and we try to compare to Norway, the fiscal space in Romania is obviously much smaller. So when we talk about state support, we need to talk about something that's done as efficiently as possible within that small space. So it's interesting to hear about Denmark. Simon, did you want to come in as well?
I just want to add a little bit to this topic. Without Northern Lights project, we would really struggle in Denmark to find location to store CO2. So there's this subsidy schemes coming out now, past couple of years. The emitter, as you say, have a risk. They have the entire risk. They need to commit to everything they apply for. And although the licenses initially were awarded back in 2023, the license holders cannot go out and say that we are ready to receive CO2 in Denmark. So there is ultimately just one storage location, and that's Northern Lights, where Ørsted is sending the CO2 now. So it's interesting to see in the coming 2 months, when there's the deadline for this ongoing tender, where will they store the CO2?
Thank you, Mr. Banciu.
Yes, I think for a country like Romania, to be very honest, I don't think the climate agenda is so powerful, but I believe that this competitiveness angle is a driver for sure. We want, as a state, as a government, as people, to maintain cement industry. We are talking about reopening a fertilizers plant. We have a petrochemical industry. They all need this. We also, what is specific is that the industrial sector has dropped a lot. So we do not have maybe the amount of emissions needed to make a project successful. We have a lot of storage potential. We also have the risks of a lot of legacy wells, more than 40,000 wells that are not active anymore. Let's not call them abandoned or closed, because we will need to monitor them. NZIA regulation creates a push for companies, traditional companies working in oil and gas. The second target in Europe is a challenge. The deadlines for meeting these targets are a challenge, but they are also bringing a lot of opportunities. I do not believe in the power of penalties, but they will have to be established for not meeting these targets. I would like to see the carrot and not the stick, and see this as an opportunity for the whole Romania, the whole industry sector, and also for the region to come with a solution for the raising, or let's say raising CO2 costs. Because after all, competitiveness is something that we should aim for. We see it recently, the European Union. We don't see, some people might have expected that the European Union doesn't go along with the climate target. There are some challenges now with the 2040 intermediate target, but still the EU regulation is there, the climate law is there. We will have to be climate neutral by 2050. Romania has already agreed to contribute to this target. So I think we have all the ingredients to make this work. Of course, connecting the dots is always an issue. What we see as a regulator is that there is a high interest in the cement industry to go with it. Unfortunately, I would say we don't have waste plants that generate energy. This is a very controversial thing in Romania. It is unfortunate, but this is the reality. But we have a lot of potential to use renewable energy from forests, similar to Sweden. So I think we can take the positive stories. I'm a positive guy. I'm an optimistic. We can take the positive stories in all these Nordic countries' experiences and adapt it to a country and a context that we have in Romania. I also see a fragmentation of interest related to funding, because, you know, competition for the innovation fund is not helpful in coagulating the interest of several industries. But this is something that we want to do. I like to connect people, companies, different interests, and I think it's a role that is not written in our regulation, but it's a role that the regulating authority should play, the facilitator of this dialogue. We have these discussions in an interministerial committee for climate change at the center of the government. There is also a dedicated working group, and we have plans to coagulate these interests, to at least map all the stakeholders and put them together and understand their challenges, but also their plans. to develop something, because I don't think we have the option of not having CO2 storage in Romania.
Yeah, and I wanted to pick up a little bit on the competitiveness aspect, because that is emerging as a narrative around CCS more and more in Europe. It used to be very climate focused. Now it is about keeping industries going, keeping them competitive, including being able to offer low carbon products. And I wanted to pick up, Olav, on something that you mentioned around procurement. It was in the song, I believe, not in the presentation. But that is also an important aspect. You know, who's willing to pay for the cement coming out of Breivik that has carbon capture and for which presumably the price of cement will be higher because of the cost associated?
So the conventional cost estimates are that the CCS will double the cost of cement, the production cost of cement. When it comes to, is this expensive? Well, it sounds expensive on the surface, but when you look at the high carbon footprint of cement as the share of a building or a tunnel or a bridge, and you look at the cost of cement in that for the total cost of the construction project, it's relatively low. So the University of Chalmers in Sweden and SINTEF in Norway and others have estimated that the added cost of CCS for buildings, for bridges, for cars, increases cost of maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, depending on the share of steel, depending on the how much CO2 you are going to capture. Because when you get towards 95 to 100% of capture rate of the emissions from a cement or a steel plant, the costs go up quite a lot. So maybe you don't want to aim for 100% emissions reductions, but maybe 70, 80, or maybe up to 90. And I think that's the perspective we need to have, because the end consumer doesn't really deal with the emission point source or the plant, but they look at the cost for the total building, and that's a lot more encouraging to see that the actual price for the end consumer can be relatively low.
Great, thank you. Did anyone else want to come in on the green products? Yeah. A second.
Yeah, because I think we have to. I totally agree on that angle, that the total cost for the community is not that high, even if for the producer of cement to introduce CCS, you have to see the scale here. For each ton of cement that is produced, you produce 700 kilo of CO2. So you ask them actually to invest in a plant that is the same, more or less the same size as the one they already had. And the market is still not there to pay the double price. So how to encourage that one? And have respect for the risk the companies has to make that kind of investment. And steel is more or less the same, but silicium, it actually produces 4 times the amount of CO2 than their product. So I think that is an interesting aspect of this.
Yeah, Olav.
Just a small comment on is there anyone who's willing to pay for CCS cement? The answer is yes. The cement plant that you've seen on the photos and in the video have already started to capture and store CO2. And they say that they have sold out the so-called CCS cement for the rest of this year. So I don't know the premiums, how much the extra they pay, but at least there's a sign that someone is willing to start testing the in public and also in private procurement. So I think that so far it's quite encouraging.
Yeah, and public procurement definitely has a role to play. We have a national plan for green public procurement in Romania, which was recently updated to include infrastructure projects, so building roads, right, and non-residential buildings, which are consumers of concrete. So, Mr. Banciu, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, we are just at the beginning. I remember when I used to work in the Ministry of Environment that it was a struggle to develop targets for this green public procurement plan. Of course, now we are better in measuring things, but we are not that good in creating the space for this green public procurement to take place, because it's always a matter of pricing, a matter of costs, a matter of market culture. If we want to put it like this, people need to understand that by paying an extra fee, a premium price for green products, even if they are cement or others or steel, they encourage and they support a local industry. And I think we need to make this connection because there is an interest of people in maintaining jobs and high quality jobs, well-paid jobs. And I think this is the story that we need to tell more and more. How will a country like Romania look if the cement industry goes in different jurisdictions, in different regions? Or what will happen in a country with a lot of agriculture and a lot of farmland without fertilizers, or a very active and still important and relevant petrochemical industry, and so on and so on. So we can continue. We are not there yet. I'm not sure if an average Romanian will pay more for green cement. But this is also about investing in education, because climate and education are very much connected. If people do not understand a simple calculation like an ecological footprint of what they consider a comfortable lifestyle, then if they are not aware of this, they will not understand why they need to change consumer behavior. I think Europe has created a lot of regulations in terms of why you should buy climate-friendly or environmentally friendly products. And ZEB, for example, is a standard that could promote the uptake of greener products. I don't have statistics. For now, they are projections. But I think with the right support, because this is why a government should support this type of investments, it's a circle. It's investing in your own industrial future. It's something that we are not there yet, but I hope that I can convince colleagues in the government that it's one of the limited ways we can still develop or maintain industries that are relevant for the future of Romania.
Absolutely. Time is marching on, unfortunately, and there's still two big topics I'd like to cover, technology and public perception. To kick us off on the technology topic, I think we've got a short video, a pitch video from a fifth speaker who couldn't be here today.
Bună ziua! My name is Jungholm. I'm the Chief Business Development Officer at Capsol Technologies ASA, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about our cost-competitive hot potassium carbonate technology for carbon capture. Capsol is a licensor of hot potassium carbonate technology for carbon capture. We focus a lot on reducing the electricity consumption as well as providing an environmental friendly and efficient system. Our main industries are biomass, cement, energy from waste, refineries, pulp and paper, and as well as gas turbines. But there are also other industries where we have seen the application of our technology. As an example of the deployment of our technology, I like to highlight the Stockholm BECCS project. This is a biomass plant, combined heat and power, that will capture up to 800,000 tons per year of biogenic CO2. The plan is for this plant to be operating by the end of 2028. They have already started the civil works and construction will commence after. Capsol offers three main products to the market today. The first one we call Capsol Go. This is a modular demonstration unit that we can deploy on several different plants. We have already done 8 campaigns so far on energy from waste, biomass, and most recently on 2 cement plants. The other technology, which is the core of what we do and what we are going to be deploying on Stockholm BECCS and other plants in the future, is called Capsol EOP or end of pipe. This is applicable to many different types of flue gas streams, and this is the main part of what we do. The last but not least is a new technology that we have developed and patented specifically for gas turbine, which significantly reduces the footprint and the cost of capturing the CO2 from open cycle gas turbines. The Capsol Go program consists of 3 separate units and 2 liquefaction units. With these, we have accumulated now over 20,000 hours, and we have, as I said before, deployed it on several different plants. These are available for lease from us and comes as a fully included package with technicians and testing points and everything that you need to test carbon capture at your site using hot potassium carbonate. Hot potassium carbonate, or HPC, has been used for a long time in the gas processing industry, so it's well proven to separate out CO2 from gases. The solvent itself, potassium carbonate, it's a salt. It's widely available on the market. You can buy it from anywhere. It is very safe, not only to handle, but it also doesn't make any dangerous byproducts. All the byproducts are heat-stable salts. And to top it all off, it's a very cheap solvent. It's an open source solvent that you can buy from anywhere at a spot price even. What Capsol has done is to develop a system over the last 20 years where we can efficiently use hot potassium carbonate as a solvent. It requires energy to compress the flue gases in order to drive the process, but Capsol has a patented system of energy recuperation where we can reuse the energy in the system, both to generate power to compensate for the load on the compressor, but also to generate all the steam required. This allows us to run this either fully standalone, fully electric, or with some small heat integrations if there's a steam or heat available. It has very high performance. We capture 90 to 95% of the CO2, and the CO2 product is also extremely clean and ready for liquefaction right after. There are no emissions to the CO2 product or to the clean flue gas from the solvent itself or from the system. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity of presenting this today. If you are curious about using hot potassium carbonate as a solvent, as a very safe and energy efficient solvent for carbon capture, please visit our webpage, capsoltechnologies.com, where you could find contact information to me and my colleagues and learn more about what Capsol can provide in terms of feasibility studies, pre-feed and feed support, as well as our test program, the Capsol Go, where you can test carbon capture at your site at very low risk and learn more about what it means to actually run a carbon capture plant on site. And in addition, we can even produce liquid CO2 from your plant today. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Still pulling that up, I wanted to start talking about technology, because we're learning by doing, aren't we? There is a lot that's going on behind the scenes to make sure we get CCS right. And Simon, I know you've worked quite a lot in the sort of technical space. So what would you say are the main technical challenges that still need to be overcome when it comes to capture and transport, which I think is one of the segments that's usually missed out?
Yeah, well, what we currently hear and see is, of course, that there are mainly 4 types of transport elements. There's many types of capture technologies, and they come with each of their own maturity, really. Also, they come with different types of suitability to what type of emission source there is. So that's the first kind of aspect I would like just to highlight and mention. The transport thing, trucks, rail, ship, pipelines. Definitely pipelines is the most efficient, transporting large quantities of liquefied CO2, also over a long distance. It comes with a high cost, of course. On the other hand, the more easy solution here now to have trucks coming in every day, passing by, as I mentioned earlier, that might affect the public perception slightly more in some areas. So ultimately, this comes down to the concepts you're developing. And it's important to do that screening and also look on the long term here, how the projects will affect the locals. Yeah, and is it sustainable to do this on the long term, or are you just trying to fix this problem here and now? I don't have a clear answer. It depends a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we segue into public perception, just being mindful that tech is still trying to get the video up. Hans-Jørgen, I wanted to come to you because you were the asset manager for Technology Center Mongstad in your role at Gassnova, which is the largest test arena for carbon capture technology. So what is your experience with TCM? How important was it for developing CCS in Norway, and indeed across the border from Norway as well. And what do we still need to learn and get right when it comes to capture technology?
TCM has really been the qualification stage for several of the technology developers into capture. And it's really has been lowering the technical risk, really. And since TCM is run in a very professional way and has used the DNV and EPRI in the US to qualify how to do test campaigns. So it has really been a mark of excellence if you have passed the testing at TCM. And that's really helped to develop this market, because there are quite few. It's a lot of first-of-a-kind solutions that is being now introduced to the market, and it's just a couple of handful of technology developers into the capture sites, capture area, and it's not that many in the transport and storage. So it's really a very immature market space we are in, and being able to assure the public that this is done in a professional way and that the authority would not say yes unless it's safe to go forward. I think that's an important role that TCM has really been a model for how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. The seal of approval of TCM, giving that extra confidence to the public that these technologies work, they work well. And speaking of, I think the video is now ready to play.
Thanks for the invitation to pitch our offshore wind farm solution, designed to fit the Romanian continental shelf. Our solution makes the wind farm development safe, green, light and fast. We are situated in the Norwegian energy capital Stavanger and have extensive offshore experience. Our mission is to produce energy, green and fast, throughout a longer lifetime. The solution is based on proven technology from the Norwegian offshore production in the North Sea, and make it possible to transport and install bottom fixed turbine in one piece without heavy lift cranes. Our MC wind turbine technology represents the breakthrough in the offshore wind landscape and allow installation of bottom fixed turbines up from 50 to at least 120 meters. The Romanian energy production area fits perfectly to the MC7 technology, since the water depth is from 55 to 130 meters. This fact will give a cost-effective development and will be very competitive towards existing areas in Europe. The wind park development can go hand in hand with a potential green oil and gas development. We want to collaborate with Romanian companies in investing, developing and delivering of offshore wind farms. However, time is of essence, and more years of uncertainties can lead to loss of interest. Norce Green Energy hereby invite Romanian stakeholders to team up with us in order to take this further. Thanks for your attention.
Please, just a couple of minutes, maybe for a question from the audience too.
Yes, just before we do that, I did want to sort of leapfrog into this discussion that's already started coming through about public perception, which is something that has traditionally been left as a bit of an afterthought, but is gaining more and more prominence now, both in policymaking and project development. So if anyone would like to share their insights or findings, maybe starting with you, Simon, because you did have a slide on that. What are your findings from DNV's projects on CCS in the Nordics when it comes to public engagement?
Well, to be honest, we haven't done that much research on public perception, so all I can say is what I hear and when I'm in this community on a daily basis, to a large degree in Denmark, well, we see that the project developers, they are to a different extent out there trying to explain what it is. And the public has concerns that we would never in our wildest imagination think of. They ask questions that we just wouldn't be able to come up with. So that's when they have these very local meetings in the area where they intend to store and explore and then potentially store CO2. And some of the developers, they go out and they have these meetings with the locals as many times it takes for them to get a clear understanding of how this is safe and should not be a concern. And some of them are very good at it. Some of them have more than 100 people participating in these quite small local communities. And but on the other hand, we also see developers coming out and maybe not so much have the public engagement. An example was a local meeting in a community where they intend to store CO2. 5 people showed up. So that, to me, is a concern. That's a risk that the locals are really not engaged properly.
Yeah, and I think there's, yes, that's Jørgen.
Yes, I totally agree with these good points. But I just want to mention that we had some success with, we call CCS safaris, really then to show politicians and members from the press what is this really about, because it's quite, CCS is quite complex with a lot of details, and it could very easily be misunderstood, and some of the aspects could be then harder to be very risky. So educating the journalist is actually a good way of being able to convince the public opinion. So you don't get any false media attention on some nitty-gritties that could be misunderstood. So educating the press is a good way to do it.
I see Mr. Banciu would like to come in there.
Yeah, I like this approach of educating media, because we have our own bad experiences with projects that were blocked because some of the media produced fake news and a lot of bad media about a project. We are talking with consumer protection agencies or associations to start the discussion about CO2 storage. And we have to start it very soon, because you need to invest a lot of time in changing people's minds. Science has to be translated, that the people understand it, technologies as well. And for me, as a representative of a regulator, of course, we should select the best technologies. You know, there is also a positive aspect of being late with projects, because you can learn from others that are already doing it. Selecting the right technologies means, of course, that the cost should be bearable, but in the same time, the safety should be maximum. Because for a regulator that is a state authority, the only way you can build credibility is when you can prove with the existing monitoring technologies, for example, that this story is safe for people. Otherwise, in this society that is very open and the information flows with no limits, the risks of fake news or misinterpretation or induced exaggerated bad feelings is very high. So there is a connection between technology and public perception. Also, from my experience working in very controversial topics like forests and bears, you need to select the channels of communicating. If a politician goes down there in the community and says, guys, please support it, it will be fine, then in a country like Romania, where the level of trust in politicians is somewhere 4%, maybe, it's a totally bad strategy to do it. So you need to select the channels, you need to educate some of the media that have a lot of coverage to understand the topic and present it as a solution, and also that any risk can be mitigated. This is also important, and not hiding. We were discussing before the panel that you should not hide the risk. You should present the risk as they are, very transparently, but also the solutions to mitigate it and what can happen in different scenarios and what are the solutions that an authority like us can impose to an operator to be sure that there are no accidents.
Yes, absolutely. Transparency is key, the messenger is key, the formats of engagement is key. You can have a song, you can have a town hall, you can have some dialogue. I think we have some time now for questions from the audience.
5 minutes. So if you are interested to ask something or maybe to make a comment, okay, 2 requests from that part of the room. I will join you immediately with the microphone. Please introduce yourself and stay within 1 minute for the intervention, please.
Good morning. For Mr. Sorin Banciu, I have a question, if I may. The question is regarding how to vision changing NEMR, changing the authority, so you can decluster and you can make it more efficient for departments to work together. For example, oil and gas to work with CO2 with CCS, or geothermal to work with CCS, because you have usually companies that would like to do more than just one thing. And there are a lot of problems with sharing the data. There are a lot of problems with a lot of things over there. So how do you vision, that's the question, how do you vision the change of the regulatory agency, authority?
I'm extremely sorry, the acoustic is very bad, but
It's quite difficult to hear that.
it's how do we envision
The regulatory involvement in making the cooperation between sectors much more feasible.
the connection between different sectors or actors?
Different sectors in the industry working together for carbon capture. Is there anything that the regulatory body can do to incentivize players from different sectors to work together in order to scale up CCS in Romania?
I think we are placed in a very good role in a very good position to play this role, because we are regulating oil and gas, we are regulating the mining industry. We work with communities that get licenses for geothermal or others, so we can have this direct connection. Of course, we cannot be alone in this work. We are a regulator, we are not a ministry. Our plan is to develop something like a roadmap, because we have a lot of strategies, and to say what needs to happen in a certain time frame, and to ask different stakeholders that are relevant in this value chain to come together. And the best place is to have it at the center of the government. We have started these discussions, maybe with not all the stakeholders together in the same room. I'm talking personally with the cement industry, asking them, guys, we are just a few people. that really want this to happen or need it. Maybe we don't want it, but we need to have it done. So let's share the challenges, because this is the only way we can grow. We are not there yet, because you need to invest time. Facilitation is one of the most interesting jobs on earth, but also very time-consuming and frustrating sometimes. But I am personally willing to do this. I have done some work of this kind in the past, and I think this is the only way. Dialogue, very open, understanding the challenges of the oil and gas industry. We know that we will not make it. We know that the 10-point-something million tons per year by 2030 will not happen, but we need to start. We need to show that we can start it and then explain to others that we understood the hurdles, we understood the challenges, but we are willing to take this path.
Thank you. Thank you. We only have time for one intervention from the audience, please.
Hello. I just want to go in more particular in this question. Once I would come onto the idea to capture some data, because I want to make a CCS in Romania, the first border I have to jump over is to go to ANRMPSG and get some data. So, can you hear this? So, the data to get can be done only by the license owner. Is there a willingness in Romania to change this usage, that only a license owner can ask for geological data of the underground? I know other countries, like Hungary, any citizen have free access onto these data, and you have a much better opportunity to go into the exploration, especially also for CCS.
I'll try to translate. So you're asking if the authority is willing to share the geological data?
Yes, in Romania, access to data is rather restricted only to license holders, not like in Hungary, for example, when there is an open access data point.
I really believe, I strongly believe we need to change that, because it's one of the countries with a lot of secrets in terms of geological data, and I think this is the road. I have convinced some of my colleagues, not all of them, that we need to be more transparent with the geological data, not only for CO2 storage or for facilitating the knowledge behind the knowledge underground, but also to show that there are a lot of opportunities in a country like Romania, not only for CO2 storage, for critical raw minerals and maybe oil and gas, why not, in the future. So I'm a big supporter of higher transparency. I'm willing to take a role of being, I don't know, the manager of this security department in our authority, to be sure that we are doing it properly, because there are laws and institutions that control this. But I believe that this is the only way we can develop these relevant sectors in Romania.
Yes, just to comment or give you a tip. Being transparent of sharing data. It's a great tool set called CO2 Data Share. That's a very good tool set that enable to share geological data, for instance, among different actors. So check it out.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. It was very interesting. Thank you, Luciana. Great moderation. We have 15 minutes of a break. Enough time to discuss a little bit more the topics that you haven't had the chance to address in plenary. So 10 minutes of a break, and we'll see for the next session. And we'll close with a song.